What if one of the things to improve your life dramatically was completely free, was fun, and meant that you had less stress in your life? Do you want it? I think most of us would say absolutely. That's sort of the message of our guest today. He heads up the Friendship Lab. He founded it. He's the director of it. Sheridan Voysey is going to talk to us why having good friends is so important and why we've really lost so many of those good friendships, especially in our Western world. This is a wonderful program, a wonderful conversation to have, and I'm so glad you joined us because I'm sure you're going to be blessed by this, challenged, but with some great hope to step forward into better friendships and a better you and them in the future. Just before we get stuck into this interview, would you please like, rate, review, share this with others? Helps us get these stories out to more and more people, which is our hope. All right, let's get stuck into this conversation with Sheridan. G'day, Sheridan.
And the sentiment is right back at you, Clayton. Always love our conversations.
It's so good. Now, Sheridan, you are based over in the UK, but you're an Aussie and you're back in the country at the moment, which is wonderful to have a chat. What's it like when you get off the plane and you sort of land back in Australia? I mean, it's sort of, home is now the UK. What is the feeling like?
Oh, it's this lovely kind of blend of I'm back home and as well as I'm in this foreign country. It's a combination of both, actually. It's funny, when Merrin and I first moved to Oxford, we were walking down Cornmarket, which is kind of like the main mall in Oxford. Heard somebody's phone go off, and somebody said, "Oh, Lord Astonbury, it's marvellous to hear from you." And we thought, well, Toto, I don't think we're in Kansas anymore. We felt so far out. And then I come back to Australia, and I'm sitting on a train not long ago, and this announcement comes over the speakers. The guy goes, "I'd just like to remind everybody that it's not appropriate to put your feet on the chairs. So if you've got your feet on the chairs, now would be a good time to take your feet off the chairs. Yes, that means you in car too. Yes, I can see you." It's just such a different experience. So that's what it's like for me to come back.
I love it. I love that so much. Sheridan, we want to talk about friendship today, and you have started up the Friendship Lab, and so there's lots to talk through. We probably won't get through all of it. I know you've even got sessions for leaders to be a part of while you're in Australia. We'll talk about that too. But could you actually take us back to why Friendship Lab actually started and what it actually is?
Okay, so I can take you back to 2 or 3 moments. Let me take you back to 2 experiences at a retreat. So I'm on a retreat, like a one-day prayer retreat in late 2019. And I have this big birthday coming up in a couple of years, and I'm thinking, okay, Lord, what's the next season for me? What should I focus on? And by the end of that retreat, I really had this sense I should focus on loneliness and friendlessness and helping people overcome those things. I didn't know the statistics then. I didn't know how big the issue was. I just knew it was a big issue. And so I went off from that retreat skipping and jumping because I thought, you know what, I've got my next book project. That's what I've been doing these last 12 years since I've been in the UK. I've been writing books, and then I do media on the books, and then I speak on the books. So I went away and I started working on this book, discovered it was such a huge issue. Here in Australia alone, 39% of people are regularly lonely. That will be you and me at any one time because it affects all of us. 25% of Australians say they have no one to talk to or turn to. So discovered those kinds of things. By the end of that year, a couple of things that really confirmed that I was on the right track. I had this kind of book outline done. I'd written the first chapter, but I felt there was a huge handbrake on the whole project. I thought, well, what's this? Is it opposition? Is it God? Is it the devil? Is it me? Whatever it was. And so I went away on another prayer retreat. And Clayton, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I really felt God spoke to me. And I don't use those words very often. And it wasn't an audible voice. It was just a very strong sense. But the words came through very, very clear. You're thinking too small. You're thinking about how to write a book and get people to read it. What if instead you were to focus on that 39% of people who are lonely, or that 25% of people who've got no close friends, and bring that number down? What would that take, Sheridan? And I remember going, oh my goodness, a book will never move the dial on that, even if it did well, would not move the dial. So what would move the dial? Well, we'd have to do media collaborations and schools collaborations and university collaborations and arts collaborations. We need an evidence-based course. And I left that retreat shaking in my boots because I realized, okay, this is a project far beyond me. And 5 years later, here we are with Friendship Lab. Clayton, I never thought I'd be leading an organization like this. But can you believe Friendship Lab is the very first organization focused on adult friendship? We've never had a dedicated charity or organization focused on how do we make adult friends work. So Friendship Lab exists to empower all of us to make our friendships thrive, whether that be making new friends when you've moved to a new city or making the friends you have closer. 40% of us want to have closer friends. We just don't know what to do. That's really why Friendship Lab exists.
Just before we go on, you use the references around Australian statistics. Obviously, this is New Zealand-wide as well. I'm assuming very similar in all parts of the world.
There is this kind of 25% mark that just keeps on coming up around the world. So in the UK, where I'm living, 25% have got no close friends. Same thing in Australia. In the US, I would imagine it's also in New Zealand as well. You kind of think even gregarious Americans are struggling in this area. So our super friendly Kiwi friends are going to be wrestling here too.
Exactly. So let's talk through as well this idea of, and I think the biggest part for me around Friendship Labs and just generally talking about adult friendships is that I feel like there's an aspect that we all go, well, I should just be better at this. And so that's why we may not talk about it. Now that's a guess. You've done a whole lot of the research. I think even as, you look at some of your great talks, and you can look out, Sheridan's TED Talk as well. He talks about this idea that there's a zillion songs on love, but try and find one on friendship. There's all these dating apps on helping relationships on romantic relationships, but friendship isn't. Is it because we sort of feel like we're supposed to just be good at this? This is natural, or has the research sort of shown up some other reason?
I think you've absolutely hit the nail on the head. There's this kind of myth that friendship should just be organic and we should just have them. And I've grown to quickly realize, well, why we don't believe that about anything else, any other great relationship. When it comes to dating, we need help. And so we have classes in school and we get guidance in church and we have books and courses and all of those things about dating. And then when it comes to marriage, we need some help on that. So we've got organizations focused on helping us to make our marriages thrive. And parenting, you need skills there. When it comes to business relationships, we've got all sorts of seminars and master's degree programs on how to make those relationships work. Why have we never had anything on friendship? It's just this kind of sense in which it's organic and it should just happen. And then I go, no, once you leave university, when all the structures that kind of naturally brought you together are no longer there. So at university, you've got a similar campus so you can meet people. So there's the proximity effect going on. You might have a similar timetable. There's places like, student bars and places where you can regularly meet other people. You can meet in the parks. You might even have shared accommodation. Once you leave that and you move away perhaps for your first job, well, then you've got another barrier coming into play because then you've moved away, you've got mobility, and that's the second biggest barrier actually to friendship today is people moving away from where they've grown up. Then after that, you might get married. Okay, you've got a little bit less time for friends. Then if children come, you've got even less time. And so what happens is by the time you reach your 35 age and above, we've maybe got marriage, we've got kids, we've got a career, we've probably moved 2 or 3 times, and before you know it, if you don't have friends, the reason why is because we haven't been intentional about it. Friendship Lab really steps in at that point and says, well, here's how we go about intentionality. Here's how we go about both making and deepening the friendships that we have. Here's all the skills that we were never told earlier. Here's how to do them now.
Can I play devil's advocate for a second, Sheridan, around the idea that says, Sheridan, this is the intentionality. I just want it to be easy. I don't want to add some other thing that I need to self-improve for myself. Could you just talk to, I suppose, that idea that there is a sense, especially, I suppose, in our Western culture, that we're always supposed to be better. We're supposed to be better. We know this is something that's so much more fundamental, right? It's something that's actually going to bless us in great ways. How do we work through that idea and say, well, actually, this is one of those things that should be really at the top of the list?
Your well-being is directly related to the quality of your friendships. We've got now 2, 3, 4 decades worth of research that shows that people who've got close friends have lower anxiety, lower depression, higher meaning, higher sense of happiness, greater sense of purpose, greater sense of I was reading a really interesting paper the other day about the connection between friendship and hope. You've got friends, you've got more hope. There is so much connected to this one area of our lives. So why not look into it and explore it and find out how to be a better friend? The other thing is our loneliness figures don't go down because as a society, we keep on finding new ways to isolate ourselves. And this goes right through our culture, from self-checkouts at supermarkets, where it used to be that some people, the only person they'd speak to during the day would be the person that they'd see at the checkout. Now we don't even get that. We have got apps on our phone that allow us to shop and order food and entertain ourselves without leaving our room. And all of that is having a detrimental effect on us. So we now actually have to have the opposite kind of intentionality to kind of get out and be with people. All of those things are working against us. So it's essential for our health. It's essential for our well-being. It's essential for our spiritual life. We have to have people around us that are helping us to walk the path that we've been called to walk. And we will not become the people we are meant to be without other people. I need people like you, Clayton, to say, I see this in you. And hey, I also see this bit in you, which I think maybe needs to change. This is all part of friendship. It's all part of being human. We cannot be human without friends. It's just absolutely essential. We promise we're going to get to some spaces where we say, hey, what are some of the great things we can put into place to improve our friendships? But I do want to just stay on this train of framing it for a little bit longer, Sheridan, and want to sort of talk into even this idea that maybe the last few decades have done something more to our friendships than possibly any time in human history, which is through the idea of social media, where friendships are perhaps a different one. And we all sort of intrinsically know this, that, they might even be called a friend online or whatever else it might be, but we understand that there's still not that same connection. And then even more so, and I know you've done a bit of research into this too, like even as we get to the idea of sort of the AI friends, where people are now having conversations with an AI, that is, we're in a different space and a different time, but it seems to be trying to reach the need of friendships, but not by actually doing the human connections together. Yeah, very, very much so. Yes, so the research on social media is interesting because on the one hand, the positive aspect is it keeps us connected to people even far away, which is really good. And it's kind of this little drip feed as to what our friends are up to and gives us all sorts of wonderful prompts to then pick up on when it comes to then getting together with them either in the room or on the phone or something. So in that case, social media is quite good. The downsides, of course, are very well known now, that there's that performative aspect where we're only ever seeing the polished version of ourselves being put out there. And of course, friendship is built on vulnerability. It's actually knowing what are the tough things going on. And if all we're doing is putting through the positive things, then it's not really a true us. So that's a big one. But let me go back, say, to 2015 and a related phenomenon of the smartphone. So we know that 2015 was the year that smartphone sales reached kind of 50% market penetration. And we know that from that point, loneliness levels start to rapidly increase, and time alone starts to rapidly increase, and time with others starts to rapidly decrease. So some people will say, the pandemic was, the real cause of all of our loneliness problems. No, it's been building for decades. Then it really took a turn in 2015, and then the pandemic just exacerbated that. So those things are working against us now, and we're so used to having a smartphone, so used to just turning to that to ask. Look, back before smartphones, when you were walking down the street and you needed directions, you actually stopped and talked to somebody. And that's the beginning of any relationship. You stop to talk to somebody, and then you get their name, and then you bump into them again, and then you find out more about them. Well, we're kind of stopping ourselves at the very first very first post, really. So that's a major issue that we need to be thinking out. Sometimes I actually say, I will not be using my phone today. I will be asking people for directions. I'll ask somebody about, can you tell me a little bit more about this or this or this, just so I have that interaction with other people. Now, when it comes to AI friends, oh my goodness, we could have this whole conversation about this, but let's do the headlines. About a third of Australians, and no doubt our New Zealand friends as well, and anybody else around the world listening, certainly it's a third also has come out in the UK, of us have turned to a chatbot for companionship. Now, this is really a concerning development because research is coming out now that shows that the more we turn to chatbots for these kind of personal friendship type roles, the more lonely we become, not the less, the more isolated we become, not the less. And here's the worst bit. Our well-being goes down and we become narcissistic. Because the research that I did a big keynote on this just a few weeks ago at a big conference in the UK. And the research that I did into why people turn to AI friends really comes down to three reasons. One, it's available 24/7. Two, it affirms me rather than judges me. And three, it's friendship on my terms. Now, unfortunately, those are the three qualities of narcissism. If we focus on those things in our relationships, then we're basically saying, I want you to basically serve me. That's not friendship, that's servitude. I'm very concerned about this, actually, because the more and more society goes down this way, the more narcissistic we'll become and the more isolated we'll become. You cannot be friends with a narcissistic person. So AI chatbots are wonderful, wonderful, wonderful tools, but we must never use them for companionship.
All right, we've framed it. We're going to come back with a heap of hope and opportunities, both those things that are the deep, long journeys and also the immediate things that we can actually do to change our world perspective, change the things we do, change some of our intentions around having better friendships. With the man who heads up the Friendship Lab, we're going to be back with Sheridan Voysey in just a moment here on Towards Understanding.
Share your brand, your event, your message across 90 Christian radio stations and major cities in Australia and New Zealand by sponsoring Towards Understanding, hosted by Clayton Bielan. More than 210,000 people tune into Towards Understanding each week, and with just one sponsorship, you'll reach this immense engaged audience. Find out more about this exciting and unique opportunity now on the sponsorship page at positivemedia.com.au.
We've spent a bit of time framing the reasons for friendship and deep friendship. Obviously, people can connect into the Friendship Lab, and that's one huge way of doing it, Sheridan. But just sort of in this point in time, as someone is listening, what's a first intention or a first thing someone can do if they say, all right, Sheridan's convinced me, I should be getting better and I need to focus a bit more on my friendships. What would be a first step?
Yeah, well, all friendships are built on really three main ingredients: time, talk, and activities. That's as simple as it gets. But of course, when you go into it, it's very, very complex. So when it comes to time, the biggest barrier to friendship today is busyness. But at the same time, the average Australian and Kiwi is spending 5 hours watching streaming video per day. So I have to say, I do believe we have time for friendship. We are just spending it in other ways. So you need to kind of carve back out some time for friendship. Now, that can be something as simple as we talk about three kind of levels of connecting with other people. There's the check-in, the catch-up, and the meet-up. The check-in is just a quick check-in text. Hey, Clayton, how are you doing? How do things go this week when you're taking your child to football or whatever it might be? It's a quick check-in text. Are you feeling better after the cold that you had? A catch-up is a catch-up call. Just call somebody out of the blue just because they exist. Don't have any kind of particular reason for it. If you have a reason, that's great. But it might be just something like, hey Clayton, you've been on my mind for a bit. I thought I'd just drop a line in and just see how you're doing. Keep that call to under 10 minutes so that they don't worry when you call back again. And go, oh no, it's Sheridan, and last time we were speaking for 3 hours. So keep that call to under 10 minutes as a quick check-in call to find out how the person is. And then a meet-up is basically what it says. You're meeting up for coffee somewhere. you're having a coffee. It might be a drink. You might go down to the pub. You might just you might meet up for a meal. You might meet up for a movie. It might be a game. But check-ins, catch-ups, and meetups. If you work on doing 3 of those a week, could be one day you might be really, really busy. And so the one week it might just be 3 check-ins, but it might be 3 meetups other weeks. But check on 3 of those connection points per week and you will start to move into some good friendships. Then when it comes to talk, we could talk about the kind of value of small talk. Some people dismiss small talk, that actually there is no medium talk or big talk without getting past small talk. And one of the tools that we have, which is available for free on Friendship Lab, so go to friendshiplab.org, you'll see that there's a free tool there, which is our conversation starter tool. We've got a list of 36 specially curated questions in 3 groups of intimacy. So the first group of 12 questions are just like the kind of questions you would ask somebody when you're just getting to know them. The next group is when you're getting to know them a little bit deeper, and the third group are, questions that you wouldn't ask until you've developed a friendship. But those 36 questions, some people actually sit down and do them together in one shot, spend an hour doing them to really get to know each other. They have been transformational for people to get to know other people. Those are what I call enlightened small talk questions, because it's not just, hey, isn't the weather nice and how's work? It's questions like, what would your perfect weekend have? What 3 things would your perfect weekend have? So you're getting to know the person at an emotional level. And then when it comes to activities, well, that flows from your small talk, because it's the small talk that helps you understand, well, the 3 things that he'd love to do on his weekend. Well, one is to see movies and another one is to go skiing. And so you find out some things that you might be able to find a common point on, and you have some things to work on. So there's 3 little kind of quick tips. Time, talk, and activities. Carve out time for friendship. Get really good at enlightened small talk, and then find something to do together.
Is there an aim, and that seems a bit, I suppose in one sense feels a bit crass to say, well, here's the aim of our friendship, but the idea, and I suppose I'm especially leaning down this concept that I know you talk about a lot, this idea of 2 a.m. friends, Sheridan, this concept that says actually we all want to head to a space where at 2 a.m. everything's going wrong. I can actually call that person and they're going to pick up the phone. Is this where we should all be heading towards, or is it, hey, look, don't put the pressure on that at the start. Just start friendship. Just maybe it's been somebody who you've been a friend with, but you need to sort of re-engage. Just start there rather than try and set a goal.
Yeah, so with Friendship Lab, we work on 5 stages of friendship. So the first stage is acquaintance, and then there's casual friend, then there's the friend proper, then there's close friend, and then what we call a 2 a.m. friend. Yeah, that person you could call at 2 a.m., your moment of greatest vulnerability and their moment of greatest inconvenience. You can't get to the 2 a.m. friend without starting at stage 1. And that's where the acquaintance level is so important. That's why small talk is so important. Then the casual friend, I had to really think about this. Is it okay to simply stay at the casual friend stage? There's some good research to say that, there's some wonderful benefits out of having a casual friend. This is the majority of our people at work, by the way. The majority of our colleagues at work, if we were going to call them friends, are probably casual friends. There's something else that's pulling us together. We might kind of go out for a drink afterwards or something, but generally it's not so much the relationship that is central, it's our work that's central. I think there's an appropriate place for having casual friends. But if you only stay at casual friends and you don't have any friends or close friends, that's a problem, because all the well-being benefits for you and for them come with having that greater intimacy. And ultimately, we all want to have a 2 a.m. friend. And we, as an organization, we have said every adult will develop through us 3 2 a.m. friends. So there's always 3 people that you could call at that level. But you're never going to get a 2 a.m. friend unless you put the effort in. It takes somewhere around 50 hours of intentional connection with somebody to move from acquaintance to casual friend alone. And then another 200 hours to move from casual friend to friend. So we want to be intentional about this. We want to clock up the friend time. We want to find those things to do together. We want to have those conversations in the lunchroom that move the relationship further. Some relationships will just simply stay at casual and we're just going to enjoy a game of tennis with them. And that's wonderful. But we need those people that we can have more things in common with. And maybe this is a good time to drop in a definition of friendship, Clayton, because this might help. At Friendship Lab, we define a friend as someone I can talk to, depend on, grow with, and enjoy. So talk to about the little things and the large, but, we don't just stop at football scores and holiday plans. We have some people that we can really talk about our hopes, our dreams, our regrets, maybe even our deepest secrets. Depend on. They're the people we can depend on at 2 a.m. when, life has fallen apart and we need that quick trip down to the hospital. Grow with, friendship at its best. It helps me to be the person I'm supposed to be. It helps we're supposed to be too. And in the Christian context, it is our friends who help us to become more Christ-like. That's the ultimate goal. We know that ultimate human fulfillment and flourishing is found in us becoming more and more like Jesus. And it's our friendships that help to do that, both in our encouragement, but also in our kind critique as well. And then enjoy. There is no friendship without enjoyment. Having those fun times together, having that sport that we do together, that artwork that we do together, or simply by the fact that when we get together, we just really lift each other's spirits. So talk to, depend on, grow with, and enjoy. Our friend listening, actually, you can use that as a little bit of a template. If you're kind of finding, this friendship isn't really going anywhere, go through those 4 points and you'll probably find some point in which, this is the weak point, and that's where you can kind of focus your energy.
I love those 4 areas, and it's been interesting for me as I never had those 4 dynamics, Sheridan, before you talked about them, but there has been a couple of people in my world who I've gone, well, actually, I can talk to, but I can't depend or grow with or actually enjoy that relationship with them. And for whatever reason it is, like, actually, I'm not going to invest in that one. We can be an acquaintance, but that's not going to work. But these ones over here, I need to now start spending more time with. I need to depend on. I need to grow with. I need to enjoy. I need to talk with. And they have flourished much more as I've gone about that process. So I think this is one of those fantastic sort of ideas and tools to be able to just think through and say, well, actually, who are the people in my world, and how do I start stepping into those spaces? I love it. I know a big part of what you're doing as well is, there's courses that people can do in groups or individually in organisations as well at friendshiplab.org. So just let everyone know that Friendship Lab is a charity as well. So you can head there, can support them and take on these courses, friendshiplab.org. And you've got a real heart as well for leaders, I know too, Sheridan. And as you're out in Australia at the moment, there is a leaders event that people can come to from all over the country coming up in Melbourne. Could you talk to us about that and why it's important for leaders to be focusing on friendship so much as well?
Yeah, thanks so much for raising this one, Clayton. Thursday the 28th, it's in Fitzroy, and you can find the details at publica.org.au. So we're doing this in partnership with a wonderful organisation called Publica, publica.org.au. Church leaders, Christian leaders, even leaders of radio stations, Clayton, are actually some of the loneliest people in society. Now, I'm not necessarily saying you. I know that you're a very relational person, but here it's not to do with relationships, not to do with being a relational person. If you are a leader of any organization, charity, business, indeed church, you've got 4 or 5 additional barriers to friendship against you. So I'll give you a couple of examples there. So one is the tension that leaders face between openness and confidentiality. So as a friend, just say you've got a friend in the workplace, or just say you've got a friend in church. You're a church leader and you've got a friend in the church. You, as a friend, are required to be open. Openness is part of friendship. When you ask me how I am, You want to hear a truthful answer from me. But also, as a leader, you're called to hold things in confidence. So what happens when you've had the worst week of your life because of somebody else in your organization, and to share that would to be breaking a confidence. So this is a very real tension that leaders face every single day. And it's based on the fact that when you are a leader, you're in a position of authority, and friendship requires equality. And so when there's a kind of a power difference like that, what you find is more and more leaders find themselves more and more isolated. I'll give you another one because there's quite a few of these tensions. One is vulnerability versus responsibility. As a friend, I want to be vulnerable with you. I want to share my needs and my struggles and my weaknesses. But as a leader, you're required to be a person of responsibility. You're the one who solves the problems. You don't have them. And people come to you in the organization and they come to you and say, well, we've got this problem. How do we deal with it? And you're the one who solves it. So in an organization, you're known to be the problem solver, not the problem haver. Now, over time, that develops into an identity. And so it comes to that point where you feel like I'm the one who should have the answers to things. I shouldn't have the problems. This is a huge one for nursing. It's a huge one for anybody in medicine. Anybody in the caring professions can wrestle with this because you can't be too vulnerable. The research on this shows that if you are a leader who shows your vulnerability, then actually to a point that can actually build confidence in your team, build rapport with your team, build trust in your team. They feel like, okay, they're sharing something with me of who they really are. But the research also shows you can't be too vulnerable because otherwise they start to lose confidence in you. And if you're sharing every day, oh, I'm going through this crisis or that crisis, and before them, you know what, the focus is on you and your problems rather than the organization and its goals. So just here's another tension. This is just two of four major tensions that we have for leaders. So 32% of leaders in Australia, New Zealand, the UK, and the US have no close friends and are regularly lonely not because of their personality, not because of their social skills, because of their role. So we're going to be unpacking those major tensions in this conversation, in this seminar for leaders on Thursday the 28th, because there are some things that we can do and put into place and some ways we can deal with the relationships so that we can still have those close friends even if we are in leadership.
And I think it's really important aspect and a moment to grab a hold of, right? Because there's so many times, and certainly, you know, in my leadership as well, where people are like, oh, it's lonely at the top. And it is, because there's times you can't share things, as you've indicated, you can't have these conversations, you can't have these relationships. But that is so easy because everyone says it, to just say, well, that's just what it is. And I think that's the temptation that leaders must try and push against. And so what a better way to do it than in a safe environment with leaders, with a man who's headed up Friendship Labs and is all around this as well. So publica.org.au, that's public with an A, and you scroll down, you'll find all the details there. Sheridan, we could literally talk for hours and hours on things of friendship and a whole host more as well, but we have run out of time. I just wanted to say thank you so much for bringing this to our attention, not just now, but over the last 4 or 5 years. We think this is going to be such an important thing for so many people into the future. God bless you with all you do with Friendship Lab, and thanks so much for taking the time to chat to us.
Thanks so much, Clayton. Always appreciate your attention and always appreciate these conversations which deal with the big issues of life and faith and culture in the context of your faith. I just really love it. Thanks for this time.
He heads up Friendship Lab. Sheridan Voysey, our guest on Towards Understanding.